I think what's significant about it is that Netflix, especially, and some of the other streaming services are giving directors the green light for pictures that never would be made otherwise. One that comes to mind right away is The Irishman, Martin Scorsese's 3.5 hour mob epic from years ago that had tons of CGI where they had to make Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, they had to de-age them by 20, 30 years at least. Nobody wanted that movie in Hollywood. It was way too expensive. Nobody else was going to pay for it. And Netflix got it made. And then we had Roma, which was Alfonso Cuarón's foreign language film from 4 years ago that was also a Netflix movie. This is black and white. It's subtitled. It revolves around a Mexican maid. Like, who wants to make this movie? It's not commercial. Netflix is ponying up the money for this stuff. They even gave the Coen brothers money to do a fun little Western anthology that, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which nobody's going to go see that in the theaters, So it's actually kind of cool. On the other hand, Netflix does have, in some of the streaming services, they put up money for, the same amount of blockbuster dreck that like everybody else has. You know what I mean? So they're still doing, Chris Pratt action movies with, terrible plots and over the top special effects and that kind of thing. So they're really doing both. But for film fans, it's really cool that we get to have movies like, Roma and, well, this year, The Power of the Dog.
Kind of branching off from that, you might have answered a good chunk of this next question, but I want to ask it directly as well. What exactly are these distributors doing differently? Again, you touched on some of it with Netflix, but I think in a lot of people's minds, they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. If there is a good movie should be a good movie regardless of who's distributing it, right? That's kind of my headcanon as a viewer. So what exactly is the difference between these digital distributors, Amazon, Netflix, and the classic studios?
Well, I think that what the streaming distributors or the streaming studios are looking for is to change the way that we view movies, because it's always been this idea that if something is direct to video or even direct, it used to be direct to DVD, now it's direct to VOD or whatever, that the quality is somehow lesser. And that is getting chipped away every year, right? So now you have a movie like King Richard, the Will Smith film that comes out on HBO Max, and Dune, they did that with Dune as well, and the Matrix, the new Matrix movie. And you just assume, well, if it's out on streaming, the same day it's out in the theaters, it's probably a bad film, right? They probably couldn't sell it. And that's just not the case anymore. They have completely trained audiences to understand that the day that a film comes out on VOD or their streaming service, and it's out in the theater, it does not mean that the quality is any less. There's still some films that haven't done that, like Licorice Pizza and West Side Story, and Belfast, films that were in the theater for a long time. But I don't think you could argue that those films are any less good than something like The Power of the Dog, which is the favorite to win Best Picture.
When it comes to quality of the movies that these streaming services are putting out, is the quality actually better, or is it just better recognized at this point?
That's a really good question, actually. I think the quality of the streaming films that we see, especially nominated for Oscars this year, is just better recognized. It's not that Netflix is making better movies than everybody else. It's that when Netflix makes a great movie, it's available to everyone, day and date, all over the globe. That is a huge audience that you're reaching, right? If you were to put a movie like The Power of the Dog in theaters right now, and that was the only place it was able to be seen, it would be this slow drip where people hear about it in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and it's just a small amount of people at a time, and it's word of mouth, and it's press building through the theatrical distribution. But Netflix has an enormous amount of power in these streaming services because these movies just come out right away, and there's just millions of people that watch them. Now again, we don't know how far they're watching them. I think Netflix is and all the streaming services are really, precious about giving their actual metrics out. You could be watching 10 minutes of the film and they might count that as a watch, but still, it can't be denied that the distribution like that is making a difference.
There's a lot of streaming services up for the Oscar this year. It was a big commotion in the newsroom. We were making a big deal out of it. But let's take a step back and just kind of ask, well, wait, what is the big deal? A good movie is a good movie.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you've even seen people flip the script. I mean, Steven Spielberg wants you to forget that it was only 2, maybe 3 years ago he was saying, yeah, movies need to be released theatrically to be considered. We should not even be judging or voting on movies that were released an alternate way. And all of a sudden now he's one of the key providers. He's backing all streaming platforms, and himself is being considered on a multitude of levels streaming. Not only has the audience made them change, but the industry indeed has changed its ideas on streaming versus theatrical. I mean, I think it was coming. I think you were going to see a slow arc of the lines being blurred. And like you said, what does it matter? That's going to be the prevailing attitude if it's not already. And you were just saying in your case, it is already. You were going to see it happen anyway, but because of the pandemic, people couldn't go to theaters. And all of a sudden now it's not even an option. So now streaming matters more than ever. And I think if anything, that just sped up the inevitable that it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Movies are movies.
Do you think that the quality of the movies that we're seeing coming from these streaming service, have they gotten better, or are they just being better recognized for their quality now?
Oh, no, without a doubt, they've gotten better. I mean, you are a digital mind, and you know better than anyone that the early adapters are the one that win. Had the movie studios who are making great movies just adapted to streaming earlier, they would be winning these awards. But Netflix adapted early, got a legion of followers, so it had the platform, it got the capital, and it started sinking that money into attracting top name, otherwise typically theatrically known talent to make its movies, and the movies got better as a result. Streaming. It was not that long ago that Blockbuster, which had pretty much all the conventional movie titles, and Netflix were neck and neck, but Blockbuster didn't have enough capital to invest in the proper streaming platforms, the bandwidth. Netflix took off. But during that time, Netflix had crap because, Blockbuster had the rights to most of the distribution. So Netflix didn't have much. And so it was a great time for people who were making marginal or worse independent film because, Netflix will take it. They would take anything. They didn't have that many great titles, but people adapted. People decided they would, sacrifice quality for the convenience of being able to stream and have something automatically delivered. And then slowly Netflix started ticking up its catalog, its capital gained, and it started investing that money into making great movies. So yeah, the Netflix product has gotten infinitely better and stood side by side with quality with any of the major theatrical, traditionally owned studio releases.